thought it would be good to come to you via video just for a few minutes so that as we come together November 5th, and we're coming from different regions of the world, we're kind of all on the same page to start together. You know, the lighting's not great, we're sitting in my office, but that's kind of the vibe of the gathering. It's really just friends coming together. I can't tell you what it means to me that you would be willing to take precious time out of your schedule. I know you're busy, you lead different kinds of ministries, and to come together for 3 days in Los Angeles is really an enormous benefit to me. I believe God's going to minister and really kind of encourage and equip you in some ways, but it's really a huge benefit to me, and I just wanted to personally thank you for taking the time and the effort and the sacrifice for being able to do this and use this video to kind of orient you a little bit, because you're invited out of relationship, and that's a big part of this gathering. But there's something else that's a big part of this gathering. We're not only friends together, but we're also working on the same issue together. Some of us may be pastors, some of us may head ministries, some of us may be business leaders or in other vocations, but we're all to one degree or another with different applications working on this same issue. Let me tell you a few stories that illustrate this. There's a doctor in Egypt, and he's got an affluent practice in Cairo, but he gives up that practice and he moves to a Muslim village that has no church and no expression of God's kingdom. And he starts a clinic there, and he provides health care for these Muslim people. And they discover God through that, and a church is planted. There is a businessman in North America who discovers that mission and making a difference in his community and in his world is not just the role of the leadership of his local church, but it's his calling, not just his career. And he begins to look at his business differently, and he begins to develop a kingdom business. And through that, both locally and globally, tremendous impact is being made for God's kingdom. There's an educator in North India who goes into a remote area where there are 4 villages, no school. The kids can't go to school because they'd have to walk 4 hours. And yet she goes in there where church planters and missionaries have tried to go unsuccessfully because the village won't accept them. She goes in there and starts a school for the kids, and they receive her. And the school provides education for the kids, and sure enough, they discover God in His grace and love, and a church is started. All 3 stories illustrate, in some degree, the major issue that we're all working on together. Let me diagram it for you, and this diagram comes courtesy of David Ratcliffe. You see, the body of Christ is made up, in our perspective, of 2 groups. There's the 1% and there's the 99%. And the 1% are the leadership of the local church and the leadership of ministries, and they're the ones who are typically seen as doing God's mission, whether that's locally or globally. The 99% are the masses of the body of Christ who support the 1% in doing God's mission. And we're all, in one degree or another, working on this issue of how do we get the 99% into the game with the 1% so that 100% of the body of Christ is engaged in God's Great Commission. One of the challenges is that the doctor and the educator and the businessman, they're not actually influencing others to get in the game. You see, part of this idea is that it's always been the 1% that has tried to influence the 99%. But the 99% is made up of all these different sectors, all these spheres of people, from housewives to bus drivers to doctors to lawyers. And we're discovering that they actually can influence each other to have a tremendous impact, to see the 99% with the 1% involved in the game. Now, like you, I've been thinking about this, praying about this, and since a summit we held in Bali that some of you were able to attend a year ago, working hard on this idea of how to mobilize the body of Christ for God's mission. It has local expression and it has global expression. One of the unique things about our gathering is that although it's a tight group of only 22 people, that 22 people, they represent the 100%. There's a volunteer missions pastor coming who's a good friend of mine, but that volunteer mission pastor, he represents a great majority of the mission leadership of local churches in North America. There's a businessman coming from Australia who represents a lot of the 99% who are involved vocationally in business. There are senior pastors who are coming from Europe who represent not just the 1%, but the spiritual oversight of the 99%. And I think we have a unique blend of friends from different regions of the world carrying out different roles, all working on the same issue, that God's got a design for all of us to participate in it. And again, I'm so grateful that you'd be willing to come to this gathering without really even knowing exactly what it's about. And I know that these few minutes probably have raised more questions than insight. But I wanted to put us all on the same page as much as possible as we gather together for what will be a really unique kind of 3 days. You know, we've got some really cool special activities planned, so make sure you follow Aaron's directions and bring what you're supposed to bring, because we'll spend some of our time in a meeting room, whiteboarding stuff, but we'll spend some of our time hearing from God outside of the meeting room, doing some kind of creative, funky stuff as well. You know, I can't predict what will happen, but I kind of have this hope. When you read through the New Testament, there are 3 places where it says they all gathered together. First, there's the upper room, where they all gathered together without really knowing what God would do. They just gathered together with expectation. And for me, that's part of what the weekend is about. We can't really predict or control God, but if we come together, for each of us individually and maybe for us corporately, we'll see Him do something we didn't expect. Then there's when they all gathered together at the Jerusalem Council. There they argued and fought and threw chairs at each other and tried to unpack and understand what God was doing. And we'll do that same thing. We may not throw chairs at each other, but we will really look at and whiteboard and discuss our experiences and our understanding of what is God wanting to do and how do we live this out uniquely in our context and corporately together. And then they all gathered together in Revelation at the throne where they worshiped. And you know, my prayer is that as much as we will enjoy meeting old friends, as much as we will understand and be challenged in the application of this in our life, in our area of influence, I pray that the weekend will also be a time of worship for us, where we will discover more about God and together be able to worship Him. Again, I want to thank you so much for making the time and the effort to come to this gathering, especially without clarity. I'm confident that it'll be a benefit to all of us individually and corporately. Look forward to seeing you there. Thanks so much.